morning. Day 3. How are we feeling? Alright. Well, if you haven't had your coffee already, no worries. This next experience is going to be pretty tough. We have something really exciting for you. Really interesting fireside chat by 2 of the top executives in the commercial space sector, Rich Webster, Clay Nowry. Thank you both for being here. And if you haven't had the opportunity to meet either of them, not only are they, top executives, they're also who know why we're all here and whatnot. So I encourage you to reach out and introduce yourself. So I'm going to do a very brief introduction. I will keep this a little abbreviated. And if you want to see the rest of their impressive bios, check them out on the SGC website, the speakers and the keynote page. But otherwise, we'll jump into it. So I'll start with Clay. Clay Nowry is the Vice President for Global Sales at Origin, where his mission is to provide customers with safe and affordable commercial space connectivity services using the reusable new Shepherd and new Black technology. Clay came to Blue Origin from the area where he served 15 years as chairman and president, and as leader of Marion's U.S. subsidiary. He was responsible for sales, marketing, strategy, communications, customer relations, basically did it all. He also served for 6 years as founding executive director of the Satellite Industries Association, and prior to that, worked as a presidential management fellow and a senior trade specialist of the U.S. Department of Commerce's International Trade Industry. Plays pretty active outside of work for the community. Chairman of the Finance and Industry Relations at the International Astronaut Federation, serves on the advisory board of the Establishment, and also founder and chairman of the Future. Equally impressive is Dr. Rich Webster. Rich is Vice President of Consulting at Rystad, where he leads market analysis, technology, forecasting, economic modeling, and analytics business. Recently served as Executive Vice President of Operations at Bank Federal, and he grew their GOP through government, policymakers, and oversaw the company's regulatory compliance functions. Rich also has a distinct leadership roles at both NASA during this time, supported strategic oversight and direction for the U.S. space program, and oversaw over $150 million worth of innovative small business research programs. So, Rich, Clay, thank you again for being here. Looking forward to it.
Me? Yeah, the video plays from there. No, this one.
There's the one time the entire queue up the presentation and then we'll jump into the chat. When you're up there, see this beautiful, vulnerable planet. Remember, it's just our origin. And you guys are here to begin. Oh, no description can be everybody needs to their mother earth and comfort, but what you see is given me the most profound experience. I'm so filled with emotion about what just happened. I just
All right. So let's start with the kind of conversation because I was college. I started in this field in the early 90s, and at that time, anybody who interested in science who was aerospace was told, "What are you doing? That field is over. Go get going." Now, at the same time, the version of one of us had traveled back in time. No, 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 no. Hey, by the way, support. You would have opened like four. So how did we get from that to what we just saw?
yeah, we've come a long, long way. Burger for me. When I was doing it was incredibly or even used today. But not as busy actually flying to space. Quite transformative. Back then, shuttle program that international space access to space was the purview of nations to be able to launch. And it took it was the largest, most industrious nation in the world that were undertaking launch for satellites and allowing human beings to put them in space. Now here we are, later, in a place where commercial enterprises or to the state are putting people going through the 6100 are putting people in space, which is something quite extraordinary to see. And really, for me, after our field, we watched that transformation from something that was capable to something that is actually a commercial capability. Everyone here in this room, in space, I think I really coming to the conference this week, speaking of the first executive director of SGC, now he's so really think about it. You're in probably the most exciting time right now. That all we're bringing. So these programs apples here at home in space. So appreciate that. Think about it and dream.
So let's go about the Chris is first example the really the other useful on board is a bit different in the sense that it's different on training. And nobody was smart so, it does advocate for that question is, are we demystifying a little bit
need to get comfortable and get everyone about, yes, first steps. So think about the your gatherings. There's less than 600 people that, that ever, I think only some of that are still alive today. That's one of the that's one of the space. And really, was obviously, last year there was 0. Whatever you want to call it, that were not from 30 space. This year, we're going to have 7 possibly private of astronauts that we're not professionally trained. Really, just 1 year. We're going to see a lot more of that. A lot more to space. And so, it's something that I believe it is used people that find something and our songs are really take a lot. That's very our vision is to work in space.
But it's going to take a little while. It is going to take a little while. But you have to think big, and you have to think about how do we democratize, how do we open access to space for everybody in this room, because I want to see everybody fly. And that's going to take a little bit of effort. Obviously, are we starting with wealthy individuals? Yes, right? We have to make a business out of this first. We have to get a return on investment. We have to make it make sense to be able to build more vehicles, more New Shepards, the crew capsule and the propulsion module, and then be able to learn how to reuse these systems many, many times. So they're designed to fly 25 times at a minimum. If we can get that number even higher, the cost curve really starts to come down. And that's really where it starts to make sense. So yes, we're still learning. We're still figuring out this reusable rocket thing, right? It's working, but that's going to take a couple more iterations till we can get to a point where it's really, really affordable for everyone.
So let's talk about some of that business model stuff. So reuse the systems multiple times. Cost per flight comes down as a result, right? You get experience and it becomes better. Your customer base. Is your customer base, you said right now they're wealthy, over time you want to make it a more egalitarian opportunity. Is the customer base right now, is this a once in a lifetime kind of group and they're checking off a box, a bucket list item? Are they, is this repeatable? Are people going to do this 2 or 3 times in a lifetime? Like, are we going from I've done the safari somewhere outrageous once to I've got a vacation home that I'll visit multiple times? And what's the timeline? What are your customers looking for in that regard?
It's a big question, but let me try to answer it. So yeah, I think, by the way, yes, people are going to want to do this multiple times. I think they might want to do it on multiple systems and have different experiences. The people I've been, so by the way, it's just for me incredible that I'm actually selling seats. I'm selling tickets to fly to space. Like I never would have thought I would have done this in my career, but it's super fun. The people that I'm talking to that, it is a lifelong dream for just about every one of them. They are, I would say by and large, you get a lot of pilots that are excited about this. People that have their private license to fly an aircraft. They are enthusiastic since they were could ever remember. Some of them are old enough to remember Neil and Buzz walking on the moon, and what a moment that was for them, a clarion call for them to say, hey, one day I do want to be in space myself. So it's been a lifelong ambition for a lot of these folks. I was relating last night some of the sales that I've done. People are super happy once they buy the ticket. It's for them, and I'll talk to them, and they say, oh my God, I'm going to fly to space next year. Like they can't even get their head around it, how excited they are about it as a lifelong dream. They're people that are looking for experiences. It's not about buying more material things in their lives. They want to have an experience, something that later on in life they can look back on and say, this was something extraordinary that I did. and maybe similar to climbing mountains or going on safaris or other kind of adventure travel that's out there. You know, when I was in my 20s still, I went to Kenya, saved up all my money. My wife and I, we just got married and we didn't have kids yet. And we went to Kenya where she was born. We climbed Mount Kenya and then we went on safari for 2 weeks, saved every dollar we had to be able to do it. And it was an extraordinary experience. Like for me, it was the best vacation I ever took in my life. And I would love to do it again, right? Like if I could find the 2 weeks to take off to go to Africa again.
Stop selling tickets.
Yeah, stop selling tickets. Yeah. So no, I think it's repeatable. I think people are going to want to do it again. And I think it's something where as the cost curve come down, it'll be far more accessible to a lot of folks out there.
When people are there, when they're in that experience, we only had a couple so far. You're going to have a lot more coming up. You know, are they willing to be guinea pigs? Will they strap something onto themselves to be a research element? Will they do an experiment with a small device? Do they want to just be left alone and watch the view? Like, what's the attitude and desire and interest as a participant in the flight?
So what I'm finding too, when we're speaking with people who want to be astronauts, is that they're very excited about science and research being part of the story and part of the community for being part of space. And so whether that's wearing, and we're not, by the way, we're not there. We're starting to build towards this this idea of them wearing devices, biometric devices, or being able to do experiments. I don't know if you guys, when you saw Sarisha Bandla fly, she had a KFT, which is a small tube that you can manipulate to be able to do experiments in flight. So I see a lot of that coming in this area. And by the way, the more people that fly, the more people that wear the same device, and you get that biometric feedback, we can start to build databases about what that experience is like, what does it mean biologically, and be able to do more work. So New Shepard, if you're aware, we have actually flown this vehicle many, many times without people on board, where we've been utilizing it to do microgravity research. And so Erica Wagner, who works on my team, is the person that leads that effort for Blue. And we've been selling this capability for lots of folks through NASA's READY contract vehicle flight opportunities program. So we fly a lot of experiments aboard New Shepard for microgravity research. A lot of it's university driven. We've also done flights with payload lockers that, by the way, are less than $10,000. We did an experiment for a grade school in Indiana, where the students at in this grade school wanted to see if the chemical reaction that makes a lightning bug, firefly, light up, if that would work in space. They worked with Stephen Colcock from Purdue University. They designed an experiment. We flew the payload locker for them. They learned the scientific, basically, method. These are 10-year-old, 9-10-year-olds, right? In school. Saw this work, did the experiment, proved that it would work, that this chemical reaction would work, that fireflies would light up in space, which is kind of just a lovely thought, really. And then they petitioned the government of the state of Indiana to make the firefly the state insect based on this research, and they were successful, by the way. So it's a neat way just to think about some science, and I know that's not changing the world kind of science, but really something that's exciting for kids in STEM to show them the kind of research they can do. So I think that's going to happen more and more. We're going to see more and more people want to do scientific research. We're working on a program called Suborbital Crew. Sub-C is the shorthand for it, with NASA, where they want to start flying researchers, principal investigators. These are not people that are in the professional astronaut corps that are coming through Johnson Space Center, but these are anybody who wants to do research, anyone with a NASA badge that would want to fly, that we can have racks installed in the capsule that we could fly. These individuals to be able to do experiments, tended payloads, just like on the space station. And if you want to think about it as a progression, you can start with a drop tower or a sounding rocket. Then you can do this kind of research on suborbital flight. Then you can bring it to the space station and to the lunar surface and then to Mars. So really, it gives you a nice progression, and at a very low price point, to be able to qualify technology, to be able to do the initial research that would then lead to on-orbit research. So we think of it as a progression. We think about it as something that gives access to researchers at a very low cost point to be able to continue to do their work.
let's talk about progression, right?
Yeah.
So you mentioned, and this is out there, right? You know, last year, no, or 2 years ago anyway, no commercial flights, and then the sort of SpaceX demo in 2020, right? The first demo flight, and then this year, you know, multiple flights with commercial flights with people. So there's a kind of zero and then a step function up, right? But that step function, that zero trail, if you will, that was a long tail, right? I mean, that 2004 was the X Prize demo of, you know, quick turnaround suborbital flight. And then it took a little while, you know, 16, 17 years. Now work was happening, right? Things were grinding. So you had an event, and then you had progress, and then you had a step function. Is there going to be progress and then another step function? Are we transitioning into a different sort of curve? You know, plot what Clay thinks the future looks like. Are we accelerating? Are we on a linear scale? Are we step functioning over time? What does it look like?
You know what they say about anybody who tries to predict the future? They're always wrong. You can never do it. You can never do it exactly right. Gosh, so this is fraught with peril. So I think, yeah, it took a while, right? But we're also talking about human spaceflight. And so I can tell you I've seen dozens and dozens of launches in my career at space, starting from the government all the way through Iron Space and now with Blue. And it is something different when you watch a launch with people on top. It's just different, you know. You get a knot in your stomach. It's one thing to lose a satellite of payload, and that's a terrible thing for somebody who's spent their career working on that program. But human beings, it's just a very different reaction. And so we need to be safe, right? That's the number one priority, is to be safe in these flights. We've done everything we think possible to make sure that New Shepard is flying safely. We have multiple, you know, three redundant systems just about for everything to make sure that crew could escape in the event of an issue problem. So it's a big deal to be able to fly people. So I think that's why, by the way, it's been taking a while, even on a suborbital basis. And by the way, these vehicles are designed. I know there's a lot on the, you know, you don't look at Twitter too much, right? But there's a lot of reaction to suborbital versus orbital. Which, yeah, these are purpose-built vehicles, right? They're purpose-built for suborbital. That's why we built it. We're trying to learn. We're trying to fly in a way that we can do this repeatably. And then we're scaling up to our new blend system, which is, you know, a 100-meter tall rocket that we're going to be flying from the Cape. So it's done that way intentionally, and it's done that way to make sure that the flight is going to be safe, that we understand how to operate a vehicle in a way that we can do it safely, we do it repeatedly, and we get the cost curve down. And we take those technologies from New Shepard and we translate them to New Glenn. We scale that up. And by the way, it's actually harder to land a small launch vehicle than it is a larger. It's the inverted pendulum problem. So if you can think about it, it's very hard to balance a pencil on your finger. Right? The center, the moment of inertia is very challenging to make that happen. But if you have a broom, you can actually balance that on your hand, right? So we're relatively the same type of problem. So for us, landing a small vehicle was super challenging. New Shepard, by the way, was the first vehicle to go to space and vertically land and then be reused. And we flew it 5 times in the first 12 months, repeatedly, without a lot of work actually to refurbish the vehicle. You know, we really wanted to push the system to see how much we could fly without having to do a ton of rework on it. So where does it? So, but to answer your question, where does that go? What does that mean? I think that in the next 10 years, what are you going to see? You're going to see this revolution in citizen astronauts and commercial spaceflight really start to accelerate. There is a huge amount of momentum here. It's a lot of pent-up demand, to be honest with you, on the demand side. There's also a lot of people that have wanted to fly, and now the capability is there. And so we're going to see this. You're going to see a ton of firsts, by the way, right? The first, you know, if it's the first Ethiopian in space, or the first, you know, I don't know, pick a country, Cypriot, or, you know, you can pick countries from all around the world. You're going to see all kinds of Guinness Book of World Records. You know, we flew Wally Funk, who's an extraordinary woman, individual aviator. I got to meet her. She became, at 82, the oldest person to fly to space. And then a couple months later, Phil Shatner at 90, right? And you could see his reaction to that. Can you imagine being 90 years old and from when he was 10 until now? And actually imagining, I think, to fly to space for him, I think it was extraordinary. So you're going to see a lot of that. There's a program right now called Commercial LEO Destinations that NASA's working on. And I think you're going to see private space stations. Within 10 years, you're going to see private space stations that will be flying with people going to private space stations. You're going to see a revolution, I think, in manufacturing in space because of additive manufacturing, 3D printing capabilities in orbit. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this happen, those things happen. I'm really looking forward to seeing a permanent base on the moon and then being able to go to Mars. It's going to take a little bit longer, but yeah, I think it's an extraordinary time.
So I have one last question for you, and then I want to make sure we give some time for folks who are here. I started off by saying, people told me in the beginning of my career, I'm sure for too, like, don't do this. This isn't the thing to do. And then, yeah, looking back, if somebody had said, yeah, but suborbital is going to be super exciting, and I'm like, so what is the key? What is a key to persistence in a career that has, we started out, not that we're, you kids don't know how good you have it, but there's a little bit of that going on in the sense that, there's so much opportunity now, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work out at the scale that you think it might. It doesn't mean that it'll work out on the timeline that you think it might. There will be, if we are a successful industry, that doesn't mean that there won't be companies that fail, that there won't be companies that fail spectacularly, that there won't be market evolution, that there won't be mergers and acquisitions, that there won't be all these sorts of things, right? The dot-com bubble was a real thing, and nobody wanted to be at pets.com. So, right, that's right.
There was a side couple.
But nonetheless, you persevere. What are the core things that have been with you since you started, that are still there now, that have allowed you to maintain the enthusiasm that you are clearly demonstrating right now? And you never lost. Like, how do you keep it? What do you got to do to keep it?
Wow, that's a big question. I would say that my philosophy of my career in life has been that any job I've ever had is the best job I've ever had. And when I say that, I mean, really, like, I'm always kind of amazed. I'm like, I have to pinch myself every morning that I actually work in the space industry, that I get to sell rocket launches for a living, that I'm living in an extraordinary time that I don't think my grandparents could have ever imagined. When I do a lot of mentoring, I talk about the ability to take opportunities. So people talk about luck a lot, right? And luck is really talent plus opportunity equals luck, right? You have to be able to seize and be able to walk through the door and be able to take that opportunity and see what you can make out of it. And so persistence is a great line, but the doors that are going to open to you guys in your careers, you can be able to walk through those doors. You take that opportunity, and it may not work, right? You may fail. You may fail spectacularly, but you can look at Chris as a great example of these guys putting together and launching a little cell phone into space, basically, and taking pictures and showing that the technology could work, and then starting a company based on it. And now they're wildly successful with Planet. So you have to be willing to take those risks, and you can reinvent yourself in your career. I started out doing international trade. I ran a trade association, which, by the way, nobody ever grows up wanting to run a trade association. It's not an aspirational. Someday I can run a trade association. It'll be great. It was super cool. Like, for me, when I took the job, and it wasn't a huge leap in salary, it was like, well, I'm going to get to meet the top executives of space and satellite companies from around the world. Well, geez, I think I should do this, right? Like, this would be from a career standpoint, I'm going to be able to learn. And I would say that is the other piece of this is, whatever you do in terms of the steps you're doing, look for opportunities to learn. Really, even if you fail and you learn from that, you will be able to take what your learning is and there and apply it to the next position that you take in your career. Learning is a huge part of life. It's a life skill, not just a career skill. If you pursue learning as you go forward, you're going to be successful no matter what. You can be a richer human being, whether it's wealth or knowledge, whatever. You're going to be a better human being at the end of the day from taking that opportunity. So use that. Think about what you're going to learn from the job. Think about who you're going to meet. Think about what other doors it might open, and then you'll be able to continue down that career path. That's my best advice.
Yeah, there's two phrases about luck that I always like. One of them is the paraphrase of what you said, luck is opportunity plus preparation.
Yeah.
The other one is luck is the residue of design. Which, if anybody's a fan of Max Kellerman, I stole that from him, sports broadcaster. I think we have time for some questions from the crew out there. I don't know if there's mics that are, looks like there'll be some mics that are circulating around. Let's just go right in the middle over here.
Yes, hi, Robert from the Netherlands here. I think, thank you for joining here today. And also, I want to thank you for your support in SGC and the origin. I have a question. Regarding the impact for climate and sustainability and commercial sector. Well, there's definitely a balance between the amount of commercial flight we can do, well, basically space flight, and the impact of climate change. How does, from a commercial standpoint, you look at this, and how do you make sure that this balance is kept in a good place for basically sustainable reasons?
Thank you for the question. And really, we love SGC. We love to be able to support the activities you guys do. And so it's really a pleasure for me to be able to support this organization. It's close to my heart. So sustainability and climate change is the number one topic in the world today, right? So first, let me just say that, again, on the space Twitters, careful what you read. So New Shepard is a vehicle that is powered by liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. The result of that is water vapor, right? So it's a clean system. It's as clean as we can fly to go to space. We are doing research aboard this system. Hopefully that things on the biological side, on the earth science side, and testing sensors. By the way, we use the platform as well to test a lot of things that will be flying in space that go to, and I'm actually doing a plenary session this week about small satellites and their ability to impact what we see on climate. So everything we do, and by the way, the reason, Rich, goes back to the other question, right? I love working in space because every day I get up and I get to work for an industry that is actually trying to solve, right, the issues of this planet, right? We're trying to do remote sensing, we're trying to do positioning, we're trying to do exploration, we're trying to push science. And all of that is to basically learn and understand our planet, our role on this planet, our role within this solar system and this universe. And by doing those things and understanding those things, we can become more efficient, cleaner, and from a science standpoint, be able to solve a lot of humankind's biggest problems that are out there. So that's why I love working in space, right? We're connecting the world, we're learning about the world, we're learning about the universe. So all of this, and it gets lost a little bit, I think, in this big debate. And by the way, income inequality is an issue, tax policy is an issue. These are things that need to be solved. Space, to me, is another piece of this larger issue that we're trying to solve for humankind. You guys should feel proud that you work in space. You guys should know that what you're doing is going to make the planet a better place, a safer place. The bigger issue, right? Why do we go to space? We go to space to benefit life on Earth. All of the technologies that we're using now and developing are going to make protect this planet. And you can see what, when Shatner in his remarks, anybody who's gone and had that overview effect, they become an instant environmentalist. Every astronaut you talk to, they can see that layer of atmosphere. They understand and they want to protect the planet. That's just one small piece of what we're doing. The science piece is the next step of that. And then being able to take those technologies and ultimately move heavy industry off of planet Earth. I know it sounds extraordinary, right? But really take, and this is Gerard O'Neill, basically was the one who first postulated this, and he was a professor at Princeton University. If you could take polluting industries and move them into space, the vacuum of space where it's a radiant environment, cosmic rays, but you can do things in a way where you're not harming the environment here on Earth. That's really the ultimate goal of what we're trying to do. And I know that's hard for some people, even, Prince William and others have made some comments recently. Space is helping to solve those problems, and we have to be able to do that. So it's absolutely critical. We think about that all the time in terms of how we operate, how we're doing the products and services we're putting in the marketplace. And we want to make the world a better place place more sustainable, ultimately.
Who's in the back?
It's a long answer, sorry. It's a complicated question.
Hello again, and thank you very much for your talk and presentation. It's going to be quite a long question, but it's a bit based on experience. I've noticed that the message that is being sent across commercial space, like, creates mixed feelings. Even within people in the space, for example, in SGC, we had one person saying, I think that commercial space right is one of the worst things in the space sector right now, and it created a lot of debate. And I personally don't have neither a pro or a con against commercial space right. I understand the reasoning, and I think I agree with that. I think mainly my question would be, how besides congresses like this, what are you doing in order to inform people about what you're saying? For example, that you are using liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen, so that you're not really affecting the environment, for example, so you're eco-friendly. You also, how do you avoid, for example, the message of well, these things like, if you have enough money, you go to space, instead of if you are qualified, you go to space. How do you send that message across, not only us in the space sector, but also like people in general, so that they can keep supporting commercial space like later on?
Thanks for the question. So I wasn't alive during that. I guess maybe I was alive, but I was really small during the Apollo program. But you always see back on these, the stories told, the first images that were taken that were very far from the moon, back looking at planet Earth. And when they published these in newspapers, people had this kind of moment, right? That they'd never seen this fragile blue orb, the pale blue dot, as Carl Sagan described it, in this vast blackness, and realizing that we're all citizens, by the way, we're all citizens in all 50 countries that are represented here, of this same little planet that we're on in the middle of this vast blackness. And to have that understanding, to have that sense of the global community that we're all really the same people. As it turns out, I guess we're all Moroccan. Is that what was said last night? We're all Moroccan. That we're all citizens of this same planet. And so is human spaceflight important to that? Yes, I think it is, because we're humans. And there's a human element of this, a human understanding of what it means to be a citizen of this planet, to be able to have that perception of what it means. And I think everybody, as you can see William Shatner talk about, should have that moment, that capability to be able to fly and have an understanding of what that is. Every astronaut says it. They have that overview effect when they're up in space and they look down at the planet and there are no lines on a map. There's no this country, that country. It looks like one ecosystem, one planet that we're sitting on, right? And that's extraordinary to have that sense. I guess to your other point, though, is it too expensive right now? Probably, yeah, right? It's not accessible to everybody. But I would say that every business starts that way, right? You don't instantly put a product into the market that's the lowest cost, cheapest, least expensive product that everybody can buy. Right? And we do live in a world, in an economic system on this planet where there are haves and there are have-nots. There are people that do not have the capability to purchase whatever it is, things, a cell phone that's in your pocket on a mobile phone. There are, billions of people, I think 3 billion people on this planet that are not connected to the internet. So we're all in this room very fortunate to have that capability. So just, you got to take a little bit of a longer view is what I would tell people, right? If you're, thinking about human spaceflight just today, is it accessible to everybody? Is it capable? Absolutely not, right? It's not, but it will get there. And it's going to take some time. And you have to start somewhere, and you have to build a business around it. And if you can't build a business around it, you're not going to get to a point where we can have millions of people living and working in space. So, be patient, I guess would be my answer. Think about how you have to start anything from the beginning, that it's going to be too expensive, that it's going to be a technology that's going to take a few iterations to really get down the curve, cost point, and have that perspective. There are a lot of criticisms that are out there about the billionaire space race. Is this just about billionaires going to space? Absolutely not. It's absolutely not about billionaires going to space. It's an easy narrative for the press to write, right? Because you've got these big personalities, Elon Musk and Richard Branson, Jeff Bezos, it's an easy narrative for them and it captures people's attention, but that's really not the point at the end of the day. we're trying to get back to this point about it's about the planet, it's about perception of our planet, it's about sustainability, it's about science, it's about research, it's about moving manufacturing. All of these things will take some time. And so I would just say, have some patience, try to understand the bigger picture.
And I think we're out of time.
We're out of time. Sorry about that.
Sorry,
Yeah, I apologize. I'm way too long-winded.
Thank you again so much, Clay. You're great. I think we're all waiting. See when we're all going to speak. And another round of applause.
Okay, sure. Mask, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So much. I had a mask. Yeah.
You're welcome. So good. How emotional. My voice just tears. Hi.
We need to move them. Yeah.
There we go. This one,
Everybody's welcome further.
rearrange.
Okay.
Make sure it doesn't fall off. Okay. Everyone smile like that.
Smile, smile, smile.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hey everyone, so we will be doing the SGC wide photo now. So if you folks can make their way to the where we do the lunch break area right now, and then we're gonna go outside and take the photo. So we'll first be in the lunch break because it's hot out. We'll do that, and then yeah, we'll go from there. So